cruise missiles of being very, very difficult to detect and therefore very, very difficult to counter or to protect against.
Right, sir. All right, Lieutenant General Asit Mistry joining us on Public. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us and sharing these inputs on these latest developments. Well, now looking between China as well as Taiwan. And now, viewers, moving on to another breaking development getting at this hour. Russian oil tanker is now expected to reach India on March 21st. Aqua Titan vessel has now been chartered by MRPL. The arrival date is in fact 21st of March at Mangalore port. It's carrying crude oil and it's a crude oil tanker. Aqua Titan is currently located in near the Laccadive Sea, and it's a current location that we're getting you just about 19 minutes ago, and it's carrying crude oil. It's a crude oil tanker. It's sailing under the flag of Cameroon is what we are given to understand. Now, viewers, that's the breaking news we're getting at this far. India is now diversifying its sources of crude as well as gas, and we're looking at a Russian oil tanker now on its way to India. It's sailing under the flag of Cameroon, and it is now expected to be docking at Mangalore port on 21st of March. So certainly a relief as far as the energy situation is concerned in India. It's a Russian ship titled Aqua Titan. It is now set to dock at Mangalore port. The arrival date is in fact March 21st. The ship here is sailing under the flag of Cameroon. Now, we have seen efforts on the part of New Delhi to diversify its sources of energy, to diversify its energy basket. In fact, Russia had also offered to supply more gas and crude to India. As the world over, we're looking at an energy crisis, and now the latest information Republic is picking up is about a Russian crude oil tanker that's now expected to be docking at an Indian port in Mangalore on 21st of March. So certainly big relief in terms of the energy situation in India. Now that's the latest we're picking up regarding the situation in India. There's another Russian vessel that's now headed towards the Indian coast. It's sailing under the flag of Cameroon. It is expected to be docking at Mangalore port, in fact, on 21st of March. It's Aqua Titan. It's a crude oil tanker. It's sailing under the flag of Cameroon, and the arrival date for the ship is 21st of March. Now, this Aqua Titan vessel, it's chartered by MRPL, and it is expected to reach India on March 21st. So a big relief in terms of energy situation. Now, my colleague Harsha has been closely tracking this. Joins me. Harsh, in fact, joins me on this. Harsh, we understand a Russian oil tanker is now on its way to India, expected to be docking at Mangalore port on 21st. Give us more details about this.
Well, right. In fact, these are the latest inputs we have received in the interministerial briefing that was held in New Delhi a few minutes back. It has expected to reach in the Indian port 21st. This is a Russian tanker that is carrying crude oil. Earlier this week, another crude oil tanker has in fact arrived in another Indian port, and this is the big breaking we are fetching from the interministerial briefing, that this Russian oil tanker is expected to reach at the port of Mangalore on March 21st. This, in fact, is a big relief, as we are in a situation of war and crude oil supplies remain disrupted as Strait of Hormuz, as the operations at Strait of Hormuz remains affected.
Right, Ash, certainly a big relief as far as the energy situation is concerned in India. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us those details. And now we are moving on to another story. Now, Strait of Hormuz has become a war zone. Iran has been claiming complete control over the economic corridor. And now the breaking development is that Iranian lawmaker says that Iran parliament is now considering passing a bill that would impose a toll and tax on the ships which are seeking safe passage through Hormuz. Now, it's a big development as far as Strait of Hormuz is concerned. It has been blocked ever since the war started. IRGC has claimed complete control over the economic corridor, and now we're looking at Iran mulling over the plans to impose tax, to impose a toll on the ships that seek a safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Now remember, 1/5 of the global oil passes through this strait. It is a gateway for all the exports that come from the Gulf countries, which are primary sources of crude and gas. And now Iran, in fact, looking to maintain complete control over it. It has been leveraging its control through the blockade, but now it seems to be going a step ahead, saying it will be imposing a tax and a toll if a safe passage is allowed to any ship through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, it's still a plan that's under consideration. An Iranian lawmaker, in fact, has now spoken on this plan to impose toll and tax on the ships, which in fact seek safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. So a big impact on energy sector is something that could be expected. All right, viewers, now India's energy lifeline is under pressure as about 22 Indian-flagged ships carrying over 1.67 million tons of crude oil, LPG as well as LNG remain stranded in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this comes following the US-Israel strikes on Iran. So while a few vessels have safely reached ports in India, we have seen Nanda Devi, Shivalik as well as the Jagladki, including over 600 crew members. They are still awaiting clearance. Officials now say they're closely monitoring the situation as India still works to secure the safe transit of vital energy supplies through this tense maritime corridor. Now, fresh visuals have also emerged courtesy a captain on board a stranded vessel, in fact, showing us what's the situation currently at the Strait of Hormuz. Take a look at this detailed report.
As concerns loom large over Indian energy supplies stranded in the Strait of Hormuz, dozens of Indian ships carrying crude, LPG and LNG continue to remain trapped in the Strait of Hormuz as conflict escalates in the Gulf region. And in the midst of this, adding on to the resultant global energy crisis, fresh visuals emerge from the Strait of Hormuz. These exclusive visuals, captured by Indian seafarers, show the stranded vessels placed along the sea. One captain aboard a stranded vessel goes on to make a claim. He says shelling has reportedly increased in the past 24 hours. While a few vessels have made it to the safety, the majority remain stranded on the west side with over 600 crew members aboard waiting for clearance. But the government is assured that none of these vessels have been struck so far. Earlier this week, 3 LPG carriers, Shivalik, Nanda Devi and Jagladki, completed their voyage to stations at Mundra Port and Kandla Port respectively.
Now, viewers, after Saudi Arabia's emergency meeting of foreign ministers from Arab and Islamic countries in Riyadh, Saudi's foreign minister now says the kingdom is not going to succumb to Iranian pressure. Take a listen as to the latest response that's coming from Saudi as Iran escalates its attacks on the Gulf countries. Take a look.
While a number of diplomats are meeting, I cannot see as coincidental. And I think that's the clearest signal of how Iran feels about diplomacy. It doesn't believe in talking to its neighbors. It tries to pressure its neighbors. And what I can say categorically, that's not going to work. The kingdom is not going to succumb to pressure. And on the contrary, this pressure will backfire. What I care about now is that the attacks on my country and on my neighboring countries that are not involved in this conflict end. That's all I'm interested in. And we're going to use every lever we have, political, economic, diplomatic, and elsewise, to get these attacks to stop. That's what I care about. Any re-engagement with Iran, this conflict, will end at some point. But I have to tell you, what little trust there was before has completely been shattered.
All right, viewers, we've got another breaking news coming in. This one comes from Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has now said that he spoke with his dear friend President Emmanuel Macron on the situation in West Asia and the urgent need for de-escalation as well as a return to dialogue and diplomacy. He also says that both the countries now look forward to continuing their close coordination to advance peace and stability in the region and beyond. So we are looking at a call now taking place between Prime Minister Modi and his French counterpart, wherein both of them have now batted for diplomacy and dialogue to take place between the warring parties in West Asia. They've called for a return from both the sides to the negotiating table. In fact, Prime Minister Modi also stressed on the need for dialogue at this very moment. He stressed on the need to return to dialogue and diplomacy. This is as per the latest conversation that's taken place between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron. Now, both the leaders took stock of the situation in West Asia. They discussed the latest war developments and stressed on the need for the warring parties to return to the negotiating table and let diplomacy and dialogue lead the way forward. All right, my colleague Abhishek Kapoor now joins you in more details on this. Abhishek, it seems that India continues its engagement with several partners, and not just in Gulf, but also from Europe, to bat for diplomacy as the war in West Asia escalates.
Well, these are very significant phone calls that the Prime Minister has made. Remember, Prime Minister has been engaged in very intense diplomatic dialogue, first to take care of India's own interests in the geography, particularly energy security and the diaspora, and then, of course, to make sure that the conflict does not widen. And in that context, Oman and France become very important, and it seems that there is pressing on the paddle happening insofar as bringing an early end to the war is concerned. Because remember, Oman has played a mediation role between Iran on one side and the United States and Israel on the other. And in fact, we had Omani foreign minister claim that just before the war started, things had tapered off and it seemed like a deal is at hand. So Prime Minister talking to the Oman Sultan is clear indication that we are contributing in our own way to bring the situation back to the negotiation table. Also significant that Prime Minister has spoken to French President Emmanuel Macron, apart from the fact that that's our strongest strategic partnership in Europe. The fact that in the last 24 hours, strongest statement yet has come in from President Macron himself, asking for the war to end, not just negotiations, but President Macron has said that the kind of energy crisis that's panning out in the world, it's an imperative now that the war is called off sooner than later. So I think in that sense, this dialogue between Prime Minister Modi and Omani Sultan, and then, of course, between him and President Macron should be indicative enough of the fact that the world really wants diplomacy to be given a chance, and all the world powers talking to each other to make sure that both the sides, Iran and Israel, United States, they really pull back now from the brink, because the world is facing an impending energy shock if this war prolongs any further.
Right, so India continues to engage with its Gulf partners as well as European allies and bat for diplomacy as the war escalates. So thank you, Abhishek, for joining us and giving us those crucial inputs. All right, viewers, coming up on the other side, the US CENTCOM releases a new video showing the targets it has hit in Iran's capital city.
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
First, we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है ना भेज रहा मंटू नहीं तो फोन तो करा अरे अनुसरण होगा हो गया तुम तो कुमार गिरा दो नीचे अब तुम फिर गाड़ी में पूर्ण वाला ना लोगों तक गाड़ी में चला
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाई जीरा सिर्फ MDH का जल जीरा जीरा सिर्फ
जीरा सिर्फ असली रिफ्रेशिंग असली स्वाद असली मजा
MDH
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात वाओ मामा क्या स्वाद है अरे मेरी राजा
First, we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है मंटू भेज रहा है ठीक है ना भेज रहा मंटू नहीं तो फोन तो करा अरे अनुसरण होगा हो गया तुम तो कुमार गिरा दो नीचे अब तुम फिर गाड़ी में पूर्ण वाला ना लोगों तक गाड़ी में चला
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Republic TV. I'm Gesu Bharadwaj, and viewers, now at least 22 Indian vessels remain on standby in the contentious Strait of Hormuz. Now this comes even as India has been given a green signal from the Iranian aggression to take their vessels through the contentious strait. Getting you all the information on that and a lot more. But first, here's a check on your headlines for the hour. Take a look. According to sources, a Russian intelligence input played a key role in the arrest of a US mercenary, Van Dyke, and 6 Ukrainian citizens by the National Investigation Agency. Ukraine issues statement on NIA arrest of foreign mercenaries, denies charges, calls it politically motivated. US intelligence report claims Pakistan is developing missiles with nuclear payload and that Pakistan advanced missiles threaten the US. The tit-for-tat attacks on gas facilities lead to surge in oil prices. Brent crude over $112 per barrel now. Anil Ambani appears before CBI, expected to be questioned today and tomorrow. Viewers, now quickly starting this hour with the freshest breaking that we have on the tensions in West Asia. Now, the US has started striking the Iranian Navy assets in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, remember, this comes as part of the efforts of the US trying to secure the Strait of Hormuz amid the ongoing developments in West Asia. And in the latest that we're learning, these are the footages that have been released by the United States, where their forces are now destroying Iranian naval targets that threaten international shipping in and even near the Strait of Hormuz. Now remember, as global oil gets a gatekeeper, the US is now living up to its resolve of securing the Strait of Hormuz. Their forces have started striking naval targets belonging to the Iranian regime and their military that threaten the international shipping in and near the Strait of Hormuz. Now, viewers, meanwhile, as the war rages on in West Asia, a larger, wider conflict looms large. Now, UAE has been struck once again. At least 7 ballistic missiles have been dealt with, and 15 drones incoming from Iran have been downed by the UAE air defenses. That is the latest statement that we're getting in from UAE's Ministry of Defense that says that their defense systems have downed 7 ballistic missiles and at least 15 drones just today, as the air defense continues to intercept and deal with incoming Iranian projectiles. Now remember, 7 ballistic missiles, that's huge. The crisis in West Asia is still on the brink of becoming wider. UAE under attack once again. 7 ballistic missiles that have been thwarted by UAE's defense systems, and also over 15 drones and projectiles that were sent across from Iran. Now, following this attack, the drone attack, the Yanbu port in Red Sea has halted all oil loading operations. That's the latest that we're getting in from UAE. And now, viewers, shifting focus. As energy and oil remain at the center of the ongoing escalations in West Asia, another oil port has been struck. The Yanbu port in the Red Sea has now halted all loading operations. In fact, it is Saudi Arabia's only port for exporting oil outside the Persian Gulf. And this is the only route which alternates the Strait of Hormuz. This is a big breaking development that we're getting in. Now, Saudi Arabia's Yanbu port has been struck and has now halted all operations of loading and operations in the Red Sea. Now, Yanbu port is Saudi Arabia's only port for exporting oil. In fact, this is one of the ports which is outside the Persian Gulf and also outside the Strait of Hormuz, the contentious strait which remains blocked by Iranian aggression. Now remember, multiple attacks across oil depots, oil ports, which are standing as alternate factors to the Strait of Hormuz from Iranian projectiles. Another one struck in Saudi Arabia. Viewers, now as Iran, Israel and the United States continue to exchange strikes and counterstrikes, the Iranian government has raised fresh alarms, saying that their judicial complex was struck by Israeli and US projectiles. Now, this has happened in Lorestan, which has resulted in the deaths of at least 14 people, including 2 judges and 10 civilians. A judicial complex in Lorestan in Iran, which has now come under attack. 14 people have been confirmed dead, and this includes 2 judges and 10 civilians. A major development in the war's aggression as the war continues to batter civilian infrastructure across borders. Now, this is the latest that we're learning in. A spokesperson from the Iranian government has spoken over the matter. In fact, they have confirmed that 14 people have been killed, including 2 judges and 10 civilians. Now, civilians being caught in the middle of the war, which is now going across a wider region in the West Asian region. That's the latest that we're getting in from Iran. Now, viewers, As energy infrastructure, civilians, oil remain at the center of the war, Iran has now issued a stern statement against its energy infrastructure coming under attack. Now, that's the latest statement that we're getting in from Iran. A spokesperson for the IRGC's Khatam al-Anbiya central headquarters has said that Iran's response to attacks on its energy infrastructure was not yet finished. Also, drawing a line and telling the US and the Israel forces that the Iranian forces will continue to strike back and strike hard when their energy infrastructure comes under attack. Now, the spokesperson also added that if attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure were repeated, the response will be far more severe. Now, remember, Israel and the US have struck the largest gas field in Iran, and after that, after South Par came under attack, Iran retaliated by striking energy sectors across the Gulf nations, including in Qatar and UAE. And now Iran has said that in case these attacks on their energy infrastructures do not stop, do not come to an end, they will continue to mount attacks on energy infrastructure across the Gulf region. That's the latest that we're picking up from the war so far. Viewers, now shifting focus and talking about the mercenaries who've been arrested in India. 7 of them, 6 Ukrainians and 1 US citizen, Matthew Aaron Van Dyke. Now remember, the Russian intelligence came to India's help. Russian intelligence and the National Investigation Agency back at home coordinated their intelligences and worked on this operation of nabbing these 7 mercenaries. In fact, the Russian intelligence also suggests that Van Dyke has been in and out of Myanmar since 2024. Based on those intelligence reports, in fact, the NIA began their raid, began sifting out the 7 mercenaries who've been arrested inside India's northeast in the last 3 months. And on the 13th of March, finally, the NIA caught them red-handed. Take a look at this.
7 foreign nationals, 6 Ukrainians and 1 American, Matthew Van Dyke, now in NIA custody till March 27th. Investigation now becoming murkier regarding mercenaries' role in destabilization India plot. Sources reveal it was a Russian intelligence input that triggered the crackdown. The input flagged a foreign network training anti-government armed groups in Myanmar. The input pointed to drone warfare training including assembly, operation and even jamming techniques, equipment routed through India, raising serious national security concerns.
A key input from Russian intelligence helped in the arrest of 7 foreign nationals. 7 foreign nationals, including 6 Ukrainians and 1 US citizen. The Russian intelligence flagged off that a group of foreign nationals were giving military training to the armed group, which are usually ethnic armed group, which are usually found in the border of India and Myanmar. Apart from this, they were also giving drone warfare training from assembly to operations to also jamming them, so the whole entire package.
And now the spotlight is back on Manipur, a region that has seen years of ethnic violence, hundreds dead, thousands displaced. The probe has now expanded. NIA is looking at sleeper cells in border areas and the role of local contacts in Manipur and Mizoram. Sources say the foreign mercenaries were in touch with local networks and had even travelled to Andhra Pradesh.
The foreign mercenaries who went to Myanmar via Northeast didn't just travel through the Northeast, like cities like Guwahati, Imphal or Mizoram, but they also built a local network. Now, as they have been arrested and the investigation is on, investigating agencies are also looking into deeper sleeper modules that could have existed. The local networks that they have used to cross over the border to Myanmar are also under scanner.
Investigators believe this may not be just 7 individuals, but part of a larger group of 14, some of whom may still be in Myanmar. Meanwhile, Sons of Liberty International has responded saying it is in touch with the US State Department and awaiting more details from Indian officials.
Sons of Liberty International, the organization founded by Matthew Van Dyke, has reacted to his arrest, saying it is awaiting more details from lawyers and the NIA. The group also says it is in touch with the US State Department, which is aware of the situation and in contact with Indian authorities. Van Dyke, an American national, is among 7 foreign nationals arrested in the NIA's drone terror probe. His arrest has now added both an international and national security dimension to the entire investigation.
As agencies now try to unravel the full conspiracy, the pattern here is hard to ignore. Foreign operatives routing weapons through local networks in India. The question now, is this just an isolated module or part of a much larger global destabilization plot targeting India?
Viewers, now shifting focus. The European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas has spoken over the West Asian tensions. In fact, she said that she's in constant touch with the United Nations to secure the Strait of Hormuz and secure safe transfer of energy through the contentious strait. In fact, listen in to what EU's Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas had to say on the matter.
We have a long agenda today, of course, very important topics like energy and single market, but from my competencies, it is, of course, what is happening in the Middle East and Ukraine. So first on Middle East, the Iran's attacks on Qatar energy infrastructure create further chaos, and it's clear that we need an exit from this war, not escalation. And that's why I've been also doing the diplomatic outreach to Iran to find different solutions. To be very clear, I talked to the minister before the execution of the Swedish citizen, so I was not able to raise that, but in my future calls I will definitely do that, also raise all the issues that we have. We have United Nations here today, and we are also working closely with them to find a safe passage for the ships via the Strait of Hormuz, because it's really a problem for especially Asia as well as Africa, that the oil, gas, but also fertilizers and food does not move from the Strait of Hormuz because it's not safe at the moment.
Viewers, as the Strait of Hormuz continues to remain a red no-go zone, at least 611 Indian seafarers atop 22 Indian vessels remain on standby in the contentious strait. Now, Republic exclusively accessed the ordeal of one person, an Indian seafarer, Ajit, who is stuck in one of these vessels. Now, while they are important for India's energy demands amid the ongoing war, it's very important to take a look at what is happening to these 611 Indian seafarers who remain in the middle of the sea as the war rages on in West Asia. Take a look at this. The war between US, Israel and Iran has resulted in the Strait of Hormuz being weaponized. While Indian ships had permission to cross the strait, at least 22 Indian vessels remain stuck in the contentious waters. Now, Republic has obtained exclusive visuals from the region sent by an Indian ship's captain. The captain reports that shelling has increased in the past 24 hours.
We are feeling safe now. Now there is no much panic, as long as the naval ships are patrolling around us, and our all government is helping us, our company is helping us, whatever our requirements are. So that is totally fine. Apart from that, yes, there we have been witnessing the attacks, missile attacks in and out of Iran and other countries. especially the last night, early morning. Today, early morning, there were around hundreds of missiles were fired to the Iran. That was a bit scary and very unfortunate.
The Indian ministries have taken cognizance of all Indians aboard, briefing that the crew is safe and sound.
सभी भारतीय जहाज और भारतीय नाविक इंक्लूडिंग 611 जो कि वेस्ट ऑफ स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज में हैं, 22 इंडियन फ्लैग वेसल्स पे सभी सुरक्षित हैं और कोई घटना की सूचना नहीं है.
Iran, meanwhile, has stated that no ship will pass through the Hormuz for the next 24 hours. Viewers, this constant attack on oil and energy infrastructure has sent the global markets in a complete frenzy. Now, as Iran continues to retaliate against the attack on its gas fields, oil prices, on the other hand, have surpassed the $100 per barrel level. Now, in fact, take a look at what the markets are like as they continue to turn volatile as the war has now entered its third week.
While Iran and Israel target oil facilities, the common man is caught in the crossfire. Since the war began on the 28th of February, the oil prices have been continuously rising and show no signs of sliding down. While the US claims that the oil prices will come down after the war ends.
If we have a little high oil prices for a little while, but as soon as this ends, those prices are going to drop, I believe, lower than even before.
This, even as European gas prices also surged nearly 30%. Meanwhile, Iran issued a warning that oil facilities will be struck across the Middle East. The warning comes after Israel struck the world's largest natural gas field in Iran. Following the attack inside Iran, Tehran targeted the Mina al-Ahmadi oil refinery in Kuwait. A fire broke out after a drone hit the operational unit of the refinery. A meeting of foreign ministers from Arab and Islamic countries took place in Riyadh on Thursday to discuss regional security amid Iranian attacks on Gulf states. Previously during the war, Iran had targeted oil reserves across the Middle East. From striking Aramco, which is managing the world's largest hydrocarbon reserves, to Bapco in Bahrain, which produces 400,000 barrels a day. Not only this, many tankers were also targeted in the Strait of Hormuz, creating a stressful environment for sailors. The war isn't only targeting civilians and top leaders, but also the pockets of the common man.
Viewers, now the European Union has, after sending humanitarian aid, held a meeting condemning the strikes in West Asia. At the forefront of this is the French President Emmanuel Macron, who has condemned the reckless escalations that are ongoing in West Asia. In fact, this happened right before he entered a roundtable meet with other EU chiefs. Now remember, this comes at the heels of the European Union also sending about $545 billion of humanitarian aid to Iran, and also after the EU completely rejected Donald Trump's demand for entering the wider war. Now, Macron has condemned the escalation that's been ongoing in West Asia, calling it reckless. Listen into what the French president said. Viewers, now shifting focus as the war rages on, various condemnations are coming in from across the globe. Now, Arab League chief has also condemned Iranian attacks on the gas facility in Qatar. The Arab League Secretary General Ahmad Abul-Ghait has condemned what he described as a flagrant Iranian attack on a major gas facility in Ras Laffan industrial city of Qatar. He in fact also condemned Iranian strikes that happened on Wednesday on Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and in fact also warned in a statement against the dangerous escalation caused by targeting of oil and gas facilities in the Gulf region. That's the latest that we are picking in, and this comes as Arab League chief has condemned Iranian strikes on gas facilities in Qatar. Viewers, now after Saudi Arabia's emergency meeting of foreign ministers from Arab and other Islamic countries in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia's foreign minister says that the kingdom is not going to succumb to Iranian pressure. Listen into this.
While a number of diplomats are meeting, I cannot see as coincidental. And I think that's the clearest signal of how Iran feels about diplomacy. It doesn't believe in talking to its neighbors. It tries to pressure its neighbors. And what I can say categorically, that's not going to work. The kingdom is not going to succumb to pressure. And on the contrary, this pressure will backfire. What I care about now is that the attacks on my country and on my neighboring countries that are not involved in this conflict end. That's all I'm interested in. And we're going to use every lever we have, political, economic, diplomatic, and elsewise, to get these attacks to stop. That's what I care about. Any re-engagement with Iran, this conflict, will end at some point. But I have to tell you, what little trust there was before has completely been shattered.
Viewers, that's all that we could wrap in this edition of the News Bulletin. But don't go anywhere. On the other side, we decode how the US forces have now started striking Iranian naval targets in and around the Strait of Hormuz, with their larger resolve of now taking full control of the shipping route. Getting you all the details on that and a lot more after this short break. Stay tuned to Republic TV.
मेरी चिमनी टूट जाएगी। What are you doing?
रानी, इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं।
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा। रुंगटा स्टील TMT से बना।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरी डे।
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, Executive Minister, we will work on that.
ठीक है मंडू भेज रहा है ठीक है ना भेज रहा मंडू आलू से नहीं होगा Indo kumain kita tuh नीचे atau tinggal di turun lah ada kota kali masalah चला हो ठीक है ना हम बात करेंगे क्या हुआ ठीक है ना भैया बोलेंगे आप
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ और
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट। अब बताओ स्वाद आया? आया।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है मंटू भेज दे रहा है। ठीक है ना भेज रहा मंटू। अरे आलू से नहीं होगा। हो गया। तुम तो कमाल किया तो नीचे। अब तुम गाड़ी ले पूर्ण वाला, दादा को टका गाड़ी मारता है। चला हो 10 भाई ठीक है ना हम बात करेंगे कहीं चल क्या हुआ ठीक है ना भैया बोलेंगे आप करिए गाड़ी जा ही रहा है गाड़ी नहीं जा रहा है गाड़ी तो 4 बजे निकला हुआ है आप बता रहे हैं लोग ये FFCCS बाउंड्री फॉर
Visuals from Palam where Aam Aadmi Party's Saurabh Bharadwaj is meeting the victims of the Palam fire. Remember, Aam Aadmi Party has been criticizing the fire department's response following the massive blaze in Delhi's Palam area that has claimed the lives of at least 9 individuals. And you have Saurabh Bharadwaj there. You can see there are a lot of people also that have gathered. There is anger against the system as well. If you see what has happened, that tragic loss of lives, youngest surviving son oblivious of the 9 family members. There's elderly, 3 generations in fact have been affected in this building that housed a shop as well in the basement, and the family lived on the upper floors, and 9 people were killed in this fire. And Aam Aadmi Party leader meeting the victims there. A lot of commotion, what we can capture on our cameras right now live on your screens. And there were frantic rescue attempts, and what we know is that Delhi government has also announced ex gratia of victims. Fire broke out in residential building in Sadnagar area of Palam, allegedly due to a short circuit in the wee hours on Wednesday. And this is there is in fact the Prime Minister had also announced on Wednesday an ex gratia of 2 lakh to the next of kin of each deceased in the Palam residential building fire. And this is the update that we're getting in from Delhi. And the fire broke out in Sadnagar area of Palam. This is a residential building, allegedly due to a short circuit. And the Delhi Fire Services, National Disaster Response Force, police and other agencies were engaged in relief work. And 33-year-old, 39-year-olds, 35, 70-year-old, 22-year-old, minors aged 15, 6 and 3 have also were declared dead in the Manipal hospital. Now, let's just get you what Saurabh Bharadwaj is saying. Saurabh Bharadwaj has said that the fire brigade opened the hydraulic lift, but it broke down, that the fire brigade could not rescue the people, and the fire kept spreading, that people tried to break the rear wall, but the second fire brigade team arrived about an hour late. So he's raising questions on the firefighters, the fire department, saying that the second fire brigade team arrived about an hour late, and by the time they reached, the damage had already been done. And this is the update from Palam, Sadnagar, where Saurabh Bharadwaj has visited the site and trying to meet the people there. And you can see there's security deployment, police deployment also. 9 people have been killed in this tragedy. And in fact, there are questions being raised by the Aam Aadmi Party leaders as far as this incident, this tragedy is concerned in Palam. And he's raising questions on the timing of the help that came in. There is the fire brigade, and 9 members of a family, including 3 children and a 70-year-old woman, have been killed in this devastating fire that tore through the building. And now the Delhi government and the Prime Minister even has announced the compensation for the fire victims, but questions continue to be raised as to what really led to this fire. And why was there any delay as far as the help that was rushed, as far as the firefighters, fire brigade that was supposed to be there? What was the reason? Was there any delay as being alleged by the Aam Aadmi Party? It was a massive fire that gripped the residential building, and what we know is that building has been completely damaged from inside, and the rescue operation became a big challenge. In fact, NDRF Deputy Inspector had earlier said that since the building was damaged from inside, it was doing a rescue operation in such a building. It was a big challenge, and our colleague Gesu joins us live on the broadcast for more. Gesu, well, this is a tragedy that has happened in the national capital. 9 people have lost their lives, including children and an elderly woman. But now protests are being held at Palam, and Aam Aadmi Party upping the ante against the firefighter for the fire department.
Rightly pointed out, Rakshita. In fact, these are the visuals that we're getting in, fresh visuals. This is what is ongoing live right now in the national capital. In fact, this comes after the Palam fire that engulfed an entire building. Not just that, at least 9 people, among 3 children also, killed by the fire that raged on in Palam. And also, Rakshita, very important to remember, the Chief Minister has ordered a magisterial probe in the matter. But this protest is over the scrutiny of the fire department themselves. Now, remember, they are dealing with 2 charges. One, that they came late, even though multiple calls were made, and the fire was raging on in this residential building, this area in Palam in the national capital. The second accusation that they are dealing with and have not given any answer for is related to the hydraulic lift getting stuck even as the rescue operations remained underway in Palam. Look at the visuals of the people completely angry, out and about on the streets protesting. 9 people that have been killed because of the fire, including 3 young children who were killed in the fire that broke out in Palam in New Delhi. Now remember, even as Chief Minister Rekha Gupta has ordered a magisterial probe, nothing has come out as of now. In fact, while the agency says that they're working round the clock to get to the bottom of the incident and to give relief to the families of those who've been killed by the dangerous fires, people are out here protesting not just against the fire but also the department for their delay over the rescue operations. Not just that, their hydraulic lift also getting stuck at the moment, where they say that had it been working, a lot many lives could have been saved in the fire that engulfed 9 people, including 3 children that were killed in the bloody fires that took place in Palam in the national capital. Back to you, Rakshita.
Right. Of course, this is one of the deadliest fires that we see deadliest fire that national capital has witnessed, as 9 members of the family die in this massive blaze. But you can see Saurabh Bharadwaj right at the center over there. He's holding a sit-in, what we understand, and he's holding a protest there along with other Aam Aadmi Party members. And there's a security deployment also, the presence of the media and the people of the residential, the residents of the area of Saad Nagar in Palam. We will continue to get you more details on that, but right now MEA is holding a press conference right now. Spokesperson Arnab is speaking.
तो भारत का क्या रिएक्शन?
So let me first take these questions. First, your question. There is a lot of, obviously, you all know about the case, and we are also aware of the case. As you know, that this is a legal matter. The relevant GOI agencies are investigating it presently. We had a related question from Keshav as to whether we have received consular access request. Yes, we have received consular access request, and these will be addressed keeping in mind the legal requirements that are involved in this particular case. Your second question regarding Chabahar, I had commented and remarked on this particular issue earlier as well, so I would repeat what I had said before. The US side has given a guidance extending the conditional sanctions waiver for Chabahar port until 26th of April 2026. The government remains engaged with all concerned in order to address the implications of these developments. So that is what we have. On the ongoing crisis in West Asia, we've made several statements as to where we stand, what is our position, how we look at it. We've called for restraint, we've called for de-escalation, we've called for dialogue and diplomacy so that there can be early end to this particular conflict. So that is where we are on the West Asia crisis. Siddhant, your question regarding over the last several days or so, we've seen strikes from Pakistan into Afghanistan. We have condemned these strikes because they have targeted civilian infrastructure and they have caused a lot of misery to people. You would have seen our statement. We once again unequally condemn these barbaric airstrikes from Pakistan into Afghanistan. Obviously, it vitiates the atmosphere in the region. It is not helpful at all. Keshav, on your consular access bit, I just responded. About energy, we have received requests from several of our neighboring countries, and I had spoken about it earlier as well. We have received requests from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka, from Maldives, and some other neighboring countries. As I had indicated earlier, India has been supplying diesel to Bangladesh since 2007 through various modes of transportation. We are continuing to assist Bangladesh and our other neighbors even currently. This is being done factoring in our own requirement, our refining capacity, and our diesel availability. अखिलेश जी, किन किन देशों से मदद की मांग आई है? मैंने कहा बांग्लादेश से, श्रीलंका से, मालदीव से हमारे पास अनुरोध आया है कि हम उनकी मदद करें। बहुत सारे देशों के साथ हमारे पहले से ही ऊर्जा के क्षेत्र में साझेदारी चल रही है, तो वो साझेदारी चल रही है और अभी के परिप्रेक्ष्य में उन्होंने मांगा है मदद, उस पर हम लोग बांग्लादेश के जैसे बताया हमने कि उनकी पूर्ति की जा रही है और अन्य देशों का जो भी अनुरोध है उसको हम लोग एग्जामिन कर रहे हैं। So we go further. We have कृष्ण मोहन जी, आपका सवाल कुछ बयान जो आया अमेरिका उसके तरफ से, देखिए जहां तक पाकिस्तान का सवाल है, उनका एक इतिहास रहा है क्लैंडस्टाइन न्यूक्लियर नॉन प्रोलिफरेशन का इतिहास रहा है, और इस प्रकार के बयान से वो फिर जग जाहिर हो जाता है कि किस प्रकार का खतरा ये दुनिया को के सामने इनके कारण, इनके क्लैंडस्टाइन न्यूक्लियर ऑपरेशंस के कारण किस प्रकार का खतरा दुनिया के सामने आता है। आयुषी।
So this is Ayush Iqbal from ANI. My question is regarding the recent meeting between our National Security Advisor and US Ambassador to India yesterday. Could you share the topics that were discussed, and how much was West Asia situation discussed as well?
Ayushi? Yeshi, sorry.
This is Yeshi Seli from Business India. I have two questions. The Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of UAE had spoken with Dr. Jaishankar. What was the nature of conversation? Were they asking for India's opinion, or were they asking them to join the discussions that they have? And secondly, the Finnish president also in an interview said that India could get involved and arrive at a ceasefire. So has India been trying to reach that situation where they can talk to both parties?
All right, now we are going across to the latest breaking news that we have from Bengal. The BJP has released its latest list of candidates, 111 candidates for the upcoming elections in Bengal. Second list from the BJP is out, and going to just share more details on that as we track each and every detail in the run-up to this the crucial polls. Nishit Pramanik to contest from Matabhanga, Shankar Adhikari from Chopra. All right, my colleague Harsha is joining us live on the broadcast for more. Harsha, tell us more details as far as the second list is concerned.
Yes, you rightly pointed out major names in this list of the Bharatiya Janata Party. This is a second list, and if we see major faces like Priyanka Tibrewal, as you were mentioning, Mr. Anup as well, and similar faces like Rajesh Kumar and Hiran Moy, these are the major faces who have been fielded in this second list. We can clearly see some of the seats have also been changed. If you see the actor Hiran Moy in 2021, he contested from Kharagpur seat, but this time Kharagpur seat has been given to Dilip Ghosh, and this time the ticket to Hiran Moy, the actor, has been given from Shampur, making lot of changes this time by BJP. Surely tells that they have done a lot of ground research, keeping in mind the home constituency, keeping in mind the groundwork, keeping in mind the strategy which will work in favor of them in the West Bengal election. Earlier, 144 candidates list was announced by BJP, and this is the 111 candidates list announced by BJP. In total, 255 candidates announced till now. One more list is expected to come next week, but it's very important that how BJP has ensured that the candidates they are fielding are from the constituency where the chances of winning is more than is above 60%, and that's the reason few of the candidate seats have also been changed. Priyanka Tibrewal, who was working a lot in Asansol, but she has not been contested or given a seat from Asansol. She has been given from Entali because of being a non-Bengali face, and now her impact could majorly be seen in the Entali constituency, and this is what we are seeing right now in the second list of BJP. Until now, we can say that 255 candidates have been announced by Bharatiya Janata Party. Soon, Rakshita, the candidates will file the nomination, and soon we'll see the high-octane nomination and the star campaigners of the BJP arriving in West Bengal. We are also expecting that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's rally will also be planned in the first week of April. And after this list, it is being stated that the manifesto of BJP will be launched in the this week of Navratri itself, before Navratri concludes. And this week only, expected that the manifesto now of BJP will be out on 27th or 28th. This is what BJP top sources tell us. And also, likewise, the star campaigners will start arriving in the West Bengal from 1st of April, when the nomination will be filed by all the star candidates. Major faces will be seen during the nominations as well. So the second list of the BJP is out, making lot of noise, exactly how the strategy has been worked out by BJP. Back to you.
Right, many thanks, Harsha, for joining us with those details coming in on that story. Shifting our focus back to the case regarding the mercenaries on Indian soil. Now, new developments have emerged in this case, and what we are getting to know is that the arrest was in fact led by, or rather one could say that the Russian intelligence inputs had helped in the arrest of these 6 Ukrainians and the American mercenary, and to which of course Ukraine calls it a it is called a politically motivated move. The NIA is right now investigating the case, but we'll tell you more details also as to how the agencies had reached these mercenaries and arrested them.
7 foreign nationals, 6 Ukrainians and 1 American, Matthew Van Dyke, now in NIA custody till March 27th. Investigation now becoming murkier regarding mercenaries' role in destabilization India plot. Sources reveal it was a Russian intelligence input that triggered the crackdown. The input flagged a foreign network training anti-government armed groups in Myanmar. The input pointed to drone warfare training including assembly, operation and even jamming techniques, equipment routed through India, raising serious national security concerns.
A key input from Russian intelligence helped in the arrest of 7 foreign nationals. 7 foreign nationals, including 6 Ukrainians and 1 US citizen. The Russian intelligence flagged off that a group of foreign nationals were giving military training to the armed group, which are usually ethnic armed group, which are usually found in the border of India and Myanmar. Apart from this, they were also giving drone warfare training from assembly to operations to also jamming them, so the whole entire package.
And now the spotlight is back on Manipur, a region that has seen years of ethnic violence, hundreds dead, thousands displaced. The probe has now expanded. NIA is looking at sleeper cells in border areas and the role of local contacts in Manipur and Mizoram. Sources say the foreign mercenaries were in touch with local networks and had even travelled to Andhra Pradesh.
The foreign mercenaries who went to Myanmar via Northeast didn't just travel through the Northeast, like cities like Guwahati, Imphal or Mizoram, but they also built a local network. Now, as they have been arrested and the investigation is on, investigating agencies are also looking into deeper sleeper modules that could have existed. The local networks that they have used to cross over the border to Myanmar are also under scanner.
Investigators believe this may not be just 7 individuals, but part of a larger group of 14, some of whom may still be in Myanmar. Meanwhile, Sons of Liberty International has responded saying it is in touch with the US State Department and awaiting more details from Indian officials.
Sons of Liberty International, the organization founded by Matthew Van Dyke, has reacted to his arrest, saying it is awaiting more details from lawyers and the NIA. The group also says it is in touch with the US State Department, which is aware of the situation and in contact with Indian authorities. Van Dyke, an American national, is among 7 foreign nationals arrested in the NIA's drone terror probe. His arrest has now added both an international and national security dimension to the entire investigation.
As agencies now try to unravel the full conspiracy, the pattern here is hard to ignore. Foreign operatives routing weapons through local networks in India. The question now, is this just an isolated module or part of a much larger global destabilization plot targeting India?
And Israel has released a fresh video now. It is showing how a strike is being conducted on the besieged forces. Now, first they eliminated the commander, the chief of besieged, but now they are saying that that throughout Operation Roar of the Lion, the Air Force is conducting a systematic and ongoing effort to strike the forces of the besieged unit and its infrastructure. The idea of operating forcefully against the regime's forces, it says, including the Basij unit, when on the day before last Tuesday, Basij soldiers operating at more than 10 different positions deployed throughout Tehran were attacked. The IDF continues to monitor, locate and strike the regime's forces, including the Basij unit, wherever they operate. So this is the breaking news. You have right now on your screens the visual of those strikes that have been now released by the Israeli Defense Forces. This is after Ghulam Raza Soleimani had been eliminated in an Israeli strike. All right, viewers. Now, reports claim that 2 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes on Adlun. This is the update we're getting in from the war zone. This is in southern Lebanon that we're talking about. 2 people have been killed in an Israeli airstrike. And this is the visual that has been once again now released by the Israelis. It's on a house on the outskirts of Adlun, about 17 kilometers south of the southern Lebanese city of Sidon. And 2 people have been killed, 8 others wounded in separate Israeli airstrikes on southern Lebanon's Tyre district. And on to the energy crisis across the globe. In fact, Russia has now reacted, saying that this West Asian conflict is rattling the global energy markets. Spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said the escalating war in West Asia has led to extreme destabilization across the region, and asking to comment. And in fact, he also commented on the soaring oil prices, noting that the entire world has felt the impact of the widening conflict and unsettled energy markets. Russia's economy, says, relies on energy earnings and already had earned billions of dollars from the surge in global oil prices. That's Dmitry Peskov, the spokesperson there, speaking on this issue of energy crisis. Russia says that West Asia conflict rattling the energy markets. Please move it. Please move it. The energy lifeline of the country is under pressure as 22 Indian-flagged ships have carrying over 1.6 million tons of crude oil, LPG and LNG remain stranded in the Strait of Hormuz following the US-Israel strikes on Iran. While a few vessels have reached ports in India, the majority, including a 600 crew that includes 600 crew members in total, await clearance. And authorities are closely monitoring the situation, they say, as India works to secure the safe transit of vital energy supplies through this tense maritime corridor, that is the Hormuz Strait. And fresh visuals have now emerged, courtesy a captain on board a stranded vessel, sharing these visuals exclusively to Republic TV. Take a look.
As concerns loom large over Indian energy supplies stranded in the Strait of Hormuz, dozens of Indian ships carrying crude, LPG and LNG continue to remain trapped in the Strait of Hormuz as conflict escalates in the Gulf region. And in the midst of this, adding on to the resultant global energy crisis, fresh visuals emerge from the Strait of Hormuz. These exclusive visuals, captured by Indian seafarers, show the stranded vessels placed along the sea. One captain aboard a stranded vessel goes on to make a claim. He says shelling has reportedly increased in the past 24 hours. While a few vessels have made it to the safety, the majority remain stranded on the west side with over 600 crew members aboard waiting for clearance. But the government is assured that none of these vessels have been struck so far. Earlier this week, 3 LPG carriers, Shivalik, Nanda Devi and Jagladki, completed their voyage to stations at Mundra Port and Kandla Port respectively.
All right, viewers, we submitted a very, very short break, but don't go anywhere. We get you how the Brent crude oil prices have gone up. Tit-for-tat attacks on gas facilities have led to the surge. Brent crude now over $112 per barrel.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट,
स्वाद बढ़ाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है? स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और फरसान, अरे चंकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा।
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है मंटू, भेज दे रहा है। ठीक है ना, भेज रहा मंटू। अरे आलू से नहीं होगा। तुम तो कमाल किया तो नीचे। अब तुम गाड़ी ले पूर्ण वाला, ना बोलते का गाड़ी मार रहा। चला हो ठीक है ना, हम बात करेंगे। क्या हुआ? ठीक है ना, भैया बोलेंगे गाड़ी जा ही रहा है, गाड़ी नहीं जा रहा है। गाड़ी तो 4 बजे निकला हुआ है। आप पता है लोग ये FFCCS फाउंड्री फॉर कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी।
वहाँ लिखा हुआ है भैया।
A very good evening, viewers. You're watching Live and Breaking. I am Rakta Mishra with you, getting you all the latest updates from the war that's right now escalating in West Asia, the impact of the energy crisis, and also the latest inputs on the mercenaries plot on Indian soil. First, the headlines. According to sources, Russian intelligence input played a key role in the arrest of the US mercenary Van Dyke and the 6 Ukrainian citizens by the NIA. Ukraine issues statement on NIA arrest of foreign mercenaries that includes the Ukrainians, denies charges, calls it politically motivated. US intelligence report claims Pakistan is developing missiles with nuclear payload and that Pakistan advanced missiles threaten the United States. The tit-for-tat attacks on gas facilities lead to a surge in oil prices. Brent crude over $112 per barrel. Anil Ambani appears before CBI, expected to be questioned today and tomorrow. Now, in the latest, Iran has launched the 64th wave of the Operation True Promise 4. It has also released a video and shows its military operations. The video released by Iran, the 64th wave of the operations. So clearly, Iran trying to send out a message that it is not going to step back, that even the elimination of Ali Larijani or Ghulam Raza Soleimani is not going to deter Iran, and the message being sent out via this video from the IRGC from Iran is that Iran will continue to fight, that it is not even seeking a ceasefire, is not going to come on the negotiating table. That's what Iran has maintained on all along. Meanwhile, the tit-for-tat attacks on the energy infrastructure continues, but and so do the wars. A new wave of missile being fired at Israel in the Gulf, and I'll try and get you more updates on that. So, meanwhile, Iran's South Pars gas field in Persian Gulf, that's world's largest known gas field, was under attack by Israel, post which retaliatory strikes have been launched by Iran on Israel. The Israeli strikes on the South Pars gas facility in Iran also drew condemnation by the United States. Take a look at this detailed report.
South Pars gas field, world's largest known gas field, was struck by Israel in the latest wave of strikes. This was a major escalation in the West Asia war. Why? Because this gas field in the Persian Gulf covers about 9,700 square kilometers and holds about 51 trillion cubic meters of gas, supplying 2/3 or more of Iran's gas supply. South Pars is shared between both Iran and Qatar. Iranian South Pars makes up about 1/3 of it, while the rest of Qatari side, also called North Field. If the attacks on South Pars escalate, it will cause massive gas and electricity shortage in Iran. After the attacks on South Pars, Iran launched retaliatory attacks, used ballistic missiles to struck Qatar's gas production facility of Ras Laffan. After the strikes, Donald Trump has put out a detailed statement. Trump claims he knew nothing about South Pars attack by Israel. He claims even Qatar had no idea that South Pars attack was going to happen. Trump gives assurances. He says no more attacks will be made by Israel. Trump also issued a stern warning to Iran, saying if Iran continues with unfair attacks on Qatar's LNG gas facility, Trump will blow up South Pars gas field. This warning by Trump comes as already oil facilities are being struck across the Gulf region, facilities that feed the economy of these Gulf countries.
Now, 611 Indian crew members remain aboard the 22 vessels that are stranded as we speak in the Strait of Hormuz. And one of the sailors aboard an Indian vessel shared his journey with a video. He has posted this on social media. Indian seafarer described his anxiety-filled days as the conflict between US and Israel and Iran have escalated. As he narrates the ordeal, the man says that the crew found out about the war while the ship was loading in Qatar. Here's the experience of how it's been so far for the seafarer.
The war between US, Israel and Iran has resulted in the Strait of Hormuz being weaponized. While Indian ships had permission to cross the strait, at least 22 Indian vessels remain stuck in the contentious waters.
Ago, he was one of the 1%, the best of America, not just a guardsman, but a law enforcement officer back home and a family man. I remember him every day just like so many other men and women of our generation and previous generations who wear bracelets like this. Just as we will always remember those lost in this conflict, their names are now etched into our mission and into the soul of a grateful nation. I stand here today speaking to you, the American people, not through filters, not through reporters, not through cable news spin. A dishonest and anti-Trump press will stop at nothing. We know this at this point. To downplay progress, amplify every cost, and call into question every step. Sadly, TDS is in their DNA. They want President Trump to fail. But you, the American people, know better. Yes, there are reporters in front of me, but they are not our audience today. It's you, the good, decent, patriotic American people. You, the hardworking, tax-paying, God-fearing American patriots. The media here, not all of it, but much of it, wants you to think, just 19 days into this conflict, that we're somehow spinning toward an endless abyss, or a forever war, or a quagmire. Nothing could be further from the truth. Hear it from me, one of hundreds of thousands who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, who watched previous foolish politicians like Bush, Obama, and Biden squander American credibility. This is not those wars. President Trump knows better. Epic fury is different. It's laser-focused. It's decisive. Our objectives, given directly from our America First president, remain exactly what they were on day one. These are not the media's objectives, not Iran's objectives, not new objectives, our objectives, unchanged, on target, and on plan. Destroy missiles, launchers, and Iran's defense industrial base so they cannot rebuild, destroy their navy, and Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. Our objectives from day one. To the patriotic members of the press, nobody can deliver perfection in wartime. This building knows that more than anyone. But report the reality. We're winning decisively and on our terms. Iran is a vast country, and just like Hamas and their tunnels, they've poured any aid, any economic development, humanitarian aid into tunnels and rockets. That's what they did with Hamas. Iran has funneled decades of state resources, not to their people, but into missiles and drones and proxies and buried facilities. But we are hunting them down, methodically, ruthlessly, and overwhelmingly, like no other military in the world can do, and the results speak for themselves. To date, we've struck over 7,000 targets across Iran and its military infrastructure. That is not incremental. That is overwhelming force applied with precision. And again, today will be the largest strike package yet, just like yesterday was. As I've said from day one, our capabilities continue to build, Iran's continue to degrade. We're hunting and striking death and destruction from above. Iran's air defenses flattened. Iran's defense industrial base, the factories, the production lines that feed their missile and drone programs, being overwhelmingly destroyed. We've hit hundreds of their defense industrial bases directly. Their ability to manufacture new ballistic missiles has probably taken the hardest hit of all. Ballistic missile attacks against our forces, down 90% since the start of the conflict. Same with one-way attack UAVs. Think kamikaze drones, down 90%. Now, the Iranians will still shoot, we know that, but they would shoot a lot more if they could, but they can't. The last job anyone in the world wants right now? Senior leader for the IRGC, or Besiege. Temp jobs, all of them. And to borrow a page from Admiral Ernest King in World War II, we've decided to share the ocean with Iran. We've given them the bottom half. We've damaged or sunk over 120 of their Navy ships, with battle damage assessments pending for many more. See, oftentimes we have to wait a few days on battle damage assessment to get the real number. Their surface fleet is no longer a factor. Their submarines, they once had 11, are gone. Their military ports are crippled. Iran has terrorized the United States and our interests for 47 years. Their core industries, not steel or agriculture or tourism, their core industries are state-sponsored terrorism, proxy militias, underground networks, ballistic missiles, and a violent, messianic, Islamist ideology chasing some sort of apocalyptic endgame. A regime like that, refusing to abandon its nuclear ambitions, is not just a regional problem. It's a direct threat to America, to freedom, and to civilization. The world, the Middle East, our ungrateful allies in Europe, even segments of our own press should be saying one thing to President Trump. Thank you. Thank you for the courage to stop this terror state from holding the world hostage with missiles while building or attempting to build a nuclear bomb. Thank you for doing the work of the free world. Yesterday's ceremony reminded us why we fight. Not for nation building or democracy promotion, but to crush direct threats to America, Americans, and our interests. We fight to win, and we are winning on our terms, following our objectives. My 13-year-old son popped into my office last night while I was editing these remarks. He asked about the war and the families I met at Dover. And I looked at him and I said, they died for you, son, so that your generation doesn't have to deal with a nuclear Iran. It's the truth, and they did. So to the families who said, finish this, we will. And I say the same to every American who wants peace through strength. May Almighty God continue to bless our troops in this fight. And again, to the American people, please pray for them every day, on bended knee, with your family, in your schools, in your churches, in the name of Jesus Christ. To the troops, keep going, and Godspeed. Over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you all for being here. I also had the honor yesterday, as the Secretary said, of traveling up to Dover with the President to welcome home our 6 fallen. It was an honor and a privilege for me to be there and to say thank you to their families. And I want to mention their names this morning. From the 6th Aerial Refueling Wing out of MacDill Air Force Base, Florida, but stationed as part of an active associate unit at Birmingham, Alabama, Major Alex Klenner, John Alex Klenner, Major Ariana Savino, she was posthumously promoted from captain to major, and Technical Sergeant Ashley Pruitt, the boom operator on that crew. From the 121st Aerial Refueling Ring, Ohio Air National Guard out of Rickenbacker Air National Guard Base in Columbus, Ohio, Captain Seth Koval, Captain Curtis Anks, and now Master Sergeant Tyler Simmons, who was also promoted in the boom operator on that crew. To a person and every family member I spoke with yesterday, they all shared that their family members loved serving, they loved being part of a great team and a crew, and they loved airplanes and aviation. Our nation's tanker crews really are unsung heroes, incredible warriors who put their lives on the line so we can continue to take the fight to an enemy. I've personally witnessed their courage and tenacity many times, from the morning of September 11th, where they answered my call for some help, to the skies over foreign countries where they've come forward out of their safe tanker track to give me gas when I simply could not leave a ground force that was engaged in a firefight. They've answered the call and come forward time and time and time again. I'm filled with incredible pride and gratitude for all that the tanker crews do, our pilots, our boom operators, and the maintainers. And to the families of our 6 fallen, know that we share your grief. Our nation will never forget their sacrifice, and we will never forget their names. Our entire joint force mourns with you today, and will continue to remember their incredible gift of a great example for all of us. Now let me turn to an operations update. U.S. CENTCOM remains on plan to achieve our military objectives and remain unrelenting in our pursuit of Iranian missile capabilities, UAV capabilities, and their Navy, and as the Secretary said, their industrial base. Each day we continue to attack deeper into Iranian territory. As reported by U.S. Central Command yesterday, the U.S. military dropped 5,000-pound penetrator weapons into underground storage facilities, storing coastal defense cruise missiles and other support equipment. These weapons are bespokely designed to get through concrete and/or rocks and function after penetrating those barriers. We continue to hunt and kill mine storage facilities and naval ammunition depots. We continue to hunt and kill afloat assets, including more than 120 vessels and 44 mine layers, and the pressure will continue. We're flying further to the east now and penetrating deeper into Iranian airspace to hunt and kill one-way attack garrisons, destroying Iran's ability to project power outside of its borders. The A-10 Warthog is now in the fight across the southern flank and is hunting and killing fast attack watercraft in the Straits of Hormuz. In addition, AH-64 Apaches have joined the fight on the southern flank, and they continue to work on the southern side, and that includes some of our allies who are using Apaches to handle one-way attack drones.
Breaking is coming in right now. This is a SpiceJet aircraft that has suffered a pressurization snag during approach to Fujairah. It's West Asia, Boeing 737 with 150 people on board. This was the flight to Fujairah, and this is in Saudi. I beg your pardon, this is in United Arab Emirates, Fujairah city in UAE, and the SpiceJet aircraft experienced a snag while approaching Fujairah. That's the breaking news we're getting in right now. And a SpiceJet Boeing 737, almost 150 people on board, had a cabin pressurization snag while operating a Delhi to Fujairah flight. And the aircraft has landed safely, no one injured. It was grounded for the checks and resumed flying after the required rectification was carried out. During the descent, the aircraft suffered cabin pressurization snag, and then there were alerts in the flight deck twice, as per a senior official probing the case. And a SpiceJet spokesperson said that there was a technical issue during the descent, and the aircraft landed safely. All passengers disembarked normally. Aircraft was subsequently grounded for necessary checks and maintenance and resumed normal operations the following day. So that's the breaking news we have right now. SpiceJet suffering a cabin pressurization snag, and this is an active process of pumping compressed air into an aircraft's cabin to maintain a safe, breathable environment while flying at high altitude. So that's what cabin pressurization is. If there could be a problem which can lead to breathing issues as well. So that's it's a method to keep comfortable level of people on board even at altitudes. And airplanes pump pressurized air into the cabin, and this is there was a snag in that, as we understand, and this has been reported on a SpiceJet aircraft flight to Fujairah in United Arab Emirates. Been affected by the area, the region. The cities have been in the news for the West Asia. Captain Kabir Malik joins us live on the broadcast for more. If you could just explain to our viewers how does cabin pressure really works and what could have really caused the snag?
See, this is concerned with the sensor also, and so many technical sagas there inside the cabin pressurization system connected with the APU. and the engine also. Once when there is some problem with the sensors, so there would sign in the cockpit of losing of pressurized in the fuselage, and maybe another 3-4 more reasons of this. So definitely, I'm sure it's connected with the engine also, because this series of aircraft, so they are creating this technical. They're facing these days this kind of technical problem of this series of aircraft. So I'm sure that is concerned with some technical issue of engine and the cargo, which is there is a machinery inside which is generate the artificial air for the cabin, which maintain the pressure inside the fuselage. Definitely, some connecting wires or some of the sensors or some leakage would be there. That's why it had happened, and I'm sure that this kind of aircraft it not would be in use of further in the industry, because you can see in every month or every week such kind of problems are we are facing of this series of aircrafts.
Right. Captain Malik, this could be, really, really harmful, as far as the passengers is concerned. If you could just explain the physiological effects, because it could lead to even breathing issues, isn't it?
As per my concern and my experience, what I just noticed in past many years, even in 25 and 26 also. So, the condition of aviation is very poor, because there is no spy agency on this any airline. Even the manufacturing company are not just taking care of the aircraft also, and the engineers are not as much as qualified, which is required for the particular machinery. They one kind of engineer, they are looking after all series of engines and the machinery of the particular company. They are shifting from one company to another company on the contractual basis, and their efficiency of work is a question these days, and we have to be noticed why we are just doing all this. It's the result of cost cutting, and they want to be make profit for the company or something else. So this is the reason, and the companies, these type of companies, they are playing the playing the life of the passengers, and it is really very shameful for our industry that it is a very big industry in the world, and India. In Indian sector, we are facing such these problems. Except of any world, you can see there is not such kind of problems are raising every day. But in India, you can say every minute, every week, we used to we are facing such these kind of problems. So definitely would have be some agencies which they will keep spy on them and find out what is the problem, and the of the system of the aviation. It's now whole in the question mark these days.
All right. Captain Malik, appreciate you joining us on Republic TV with your reading of the situation. Meanwhile, shifting focus to other stories, viewers. But before that, time for a very, very short break. But we'll tell you more about how the US intel report has flagged concerns over Pakistan developing missiles with nuclear payloads that can even threaten the United States. This is talking about an intercontinental ballistic missile.
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाई जीरा से MDH का जलजीरा जीरा से
जीरा से असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा।
MDH
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे, केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार, विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी every day.
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है मंटू भेज दे रहा है। ठीक है ना भेज रहा मंटू। आलू से नहीं होगा तुमचा कुणाला गेला नीचे अजून गाडीला पूर्ण होला त्याला कुठे गाडी मागवा चला हो ठीक है ना हम बात करेंगे कहीं नहीं क्या हुआ हाँ ठीक है ना भैया बोलेंगे गाड़ी जा ही रहा है गाड़ी नहीं जा रहा है गाड़ी तो चारों बजे निकला हुआ है आप पता है लोग
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट ड्राई फ्रूट और दही बड़े
चमकी चाट से स्वाद बढ़े
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा हार्डकोर मसाला
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है मंटू भेज रहा है ठीक है ना भेज रहा मंटू अरे आलू से नहीं होगा तुमचा कुणाला गेला नीचे अजून गाडीला पूर्ण होला त्याला कुठे गाडी मागवा
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
You're watching live and breaking on Republic TV with me, Ishita Mitra. Now, viewers, on day 20 of the war in West Asia, Pete Hegseth declares US is raining death and destruction over Iran while also calling out European allies ungrateful. We'll get you all the details on that. But first up, headlines. According to sources, a Russian intelligence input played a key role in the arrest of US mercenary Van Dyke and 6 Ukrainian citizens by the NIA. Ukraine issues statement on NIA arrest of foreign mercenaries. It denies charges and calls it politically motivated. US intelligence report claims Pakistan developing missiles with nuclear payload and adding that Pakistan advanced missiles now threaten United States. The tit-for-tat attacks on gas facilities lead to surge in oil prices. Brent crude now over $115 per barrel. Anil Ambani appears before CBI, questioned today as well as questioning to continue tomorrow. Welcome viewers. Our top focus at this hour. Our reports are coming to light that claim at least 2 people have been killed in Israeli airstrike on Iran. Now viewers, this in fact not just in Iran, in southern Lebanon as well. 2 people have been killed in an Israeli strike. It took place in a house on the outskirts of Adalon. This is about 17 kilometers south of southern Lebanese city of Sidon. This is according to the national news agency, which has been reporting on the war developments. And as we reported earlier, 2 people have been killed in these latest attacks carried out by Israel, while 8 others have also been wounded in a separate Israeli strikes on southern Lebanon's Tyre district. So we're looking at Israel widening the scale of its attacks in southern Lebanon. 2 casualties have now taken place and another 8 people have been injured in the latest strikes. That's where the death toll currently stands as we talk about Israel's latest attacks on Lebanon. We're looking at not just the capital city of Beirut coming under attack, but several other areas, including the Lebanese city of Sidon, as well as Lebanon's southern district of Tyre. All have come under repeated attacks by the IDF. And now viewers, India's energy lifeline is under pressure as about 22 Indian flagged ships carrying over 1.67 million tons of crude oil, LPG as well as LNG remain stranded in the Strait of Hormuz following the US-Israel strikes on Iran. Now, while a few vessels have safely reached Indian ports, including Nanda Devi, Shivalik and Jagladki, the majority, including over 600 crew members, still await clearance. Now, officials are closely monitoring the situation around the Strait of Hormuz as India continuously works to secure the safe transit of vital energy supplies through this tense maritime corridor. Take a look at this exclusive report that talks about the current situation and also gives you the update regarding Indian ships that have been stranded in the economic corridor.
As concerns loom large over Indian energy supplies stranded in the Strait of Hormuz, dozens of Indian ships carrying crude, LPG and LNG continue to remain trapped in the Strait of Hormuz as conflict escalates in the Gulf region. And in the midst of this, adding on to the resultant global energy crisis, fresh visuals emerge from the Strait of Hormuz. These exclusive visuals, captured by Indian seafarers, show the stranded vessels placed along the sea. One captain aboard a stranded vessel goes on to make a claim. He says shelling has reportedly increased in the past 24 hours. While a few vessels have made it to the safety, the majority remain stranded on the west side with over 600 crew members aboard waiting for clearance. But the government is assured that none of these vessels have been struck so far. Earlier this week, 3 LPG carriers, Shivalik, Nanda Devi and Jagladki, completed their voyage to stations at Mundra Port and Kandla Port respectively.
And now here's some more on this. About 611 Indian crew members remain aboard the about 22 vessels that are stuck in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, one of the sailors aboard has shared his journey with us on Republic. In a video posted on social media, Indian seafarer Ajit talks about his anxiety-ridden ordeal. The man says that the crew found out about the war while ship was loading in Qatar. Now, he shared experience about being stuck in the Strait of Hormuz and the situation regarding the other ships as well. Take a listen.
The war between US, Israel and Iran has resulted in the Strait of Hormuz being weaponized. While Indian ships had permission to cross the strait, at least 22 Indian vessels remain stuck in the contentious waters. Now, Republic has obtained exclusive visuals from the region sent by an Indian ship's captain. The captain reports that shelling has increased in the past 24 hours.
We are feeling safe now. Now there is no much panic as long as, the naval ships are patrolling around us and our all government is helping us, our company is helping us. Whatever our requirements are. So that is totally fine. Apart from that, yes, we have been witnessing the attacks, missile attacks in and out of Iran and other countries, especially the last night, today early morning, there were around hundreds of missiles were fired to the Iran. That was a bit scary and very unfortunate.
The Indian ministries have taken cognizance of all Indians aboard, briefing that the crew is safe and sound.
सभी भारतीय जहाज और भारतीय नाविक इंक्लूडिंग 611 जो कि वेस्ट ऑफ स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज में हैं, 22 इंडियन फ्लैग वेसल्स पे सभी सुरक्षित हैं और कोई घटना की सूचना नहीं है.
Iran, meanwhile, has stated that no ship will pass through the Hormuz for the next 24 hours.
All right, viewers, and now shifting focus to some breaking developments we're getting at this moment. Questions are now being raised over the alleged links between the U.S. State Department and the American national who has now been arrested by NIA, Van Dyke. Now, reports suggest that Van Dyke, who documented the Iraq war in 2009, was actually arrested by Iraqi police while being embedded with the U.S. forces and remained untraceable for nearly 48 hours before being located in military barracks. In fact, we're getting you details about Matthew Van Dyke, who remains in NIA custody. Now, he was He documented the Iraq war in 2009. He has been going through the war zones back in 2000s. He was then arrested by the Iraqi police in the same year as he was covering the war in the region. And then he was rescued by the U.S. military. In fact, remember, he was untraceable for about 48 hours, according to U.S. State Department. And then the State Department located him in military barracks. Now, remember, at this time, he was embedded within the U.S. forces while he was covering the war as well. Now, U.S. State Department, in fact, secured his release. And Iran labeled Van Dyke as a Jewish spy. So when he was released, there was a report put up by Iranian media, which in fact labeled him as a Jewish spy. Now, post-Iranian report, the State Department had to ask Van Dyke to leave Iraq as soon as possible, and he left the country way before his scheduled departure.
Certain restricted areas which are restricted in India, and there are certain protected areas. So for those areas, you need a permission to travel there, and whether they were in possession of this particular permission or not, it is now in the court. It will be presented, and thereafter we'll come to know. But I would refer you to what the NIA has had to say. I haven't gone into the technical details of it, but I understand that they may be wanting of certain documents for traveling to that part of India. There are certain restricted areas which are restricted in India, and there are certain protected areas. So for those areas, you need a permission to travel there, and whether they were in possession of this particular permission or not, it is now in the court. It will be presented, and thereafter we'll come to know. But I would refer you to what the NIA has had to say. I haven't gone into the technical details of it, but I understand that they may be wanting of certain documents for traveling to that part of India.
All right, viewers are now shifting focus to the impact on oil economy of the war investigation. Our crude oil prices are soaring as tensions in our Middle East escalate. Brent crude has now jumped to about $114 per barrel, while US's West Texas intermediate rose to about $97.30. Now in India, MCX crude touched about 9,000 rupees and 99 per barrel, up more than 1%. And meanwhile, we're also looking at impact on our US national debt, which has now crossed about $39 trillion just weeks into the ongoing conflict in Iran, certainly adding more pressure on the global markets. Now we're looking at the impact on not just the markets, oil prices, all across the global economy has been impacted by the ongoing war. And I'm now being joined by Arn Lohman Rasmussen, a chief analyst and head of research global risk management on this. All right, Rasmussen, thank you so much for joining us on Republic TV. I want to ask you, we've seen crude prices now jumping about $115 per barrel. And this comes as Iran has now vowed to attack oil facilities all across the Gulf nations. So how do you gauge this recent spike in oil prices, and where do you see it going forward?
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, I think it reflects that we are seeing a severe escalation in the conflict now. We have moved into a phase where we are attacking energy installations. We are moving up the escalation ladder. And I think the market is starting to realize, especially the futures market that we are looking at here, are starting to realize that this crisis may extend for a longer period of time. Not only may the war extend, but the closure of the strait may extend also beyond, let's say, if the US stop bombing. And we are starting to see an effect on physical installations. Oil production may not recover as fast. Refinery capacity may not recover. LNG supplies may certainly not recover as fast as believed just a few days ago. And the bombings, the escalation yesterday was certainly something I guess shocked the market.
Right. Now we've already seen about 48% rise in the prices of crude since the war began. And there were warnings issued by Iran saying it could also touch $120 per barrel. Do you also see it going in that direction in the coming few days?
I don't know how we are going, but we are certainly moving into a phase where what is going to sort of stabilize the market, what is going to clear the market. And it is basically that we need to see what you call demand destruction. You basically need demand to give in to the high prices. And I'm not sure we are there yet with Brent around 115. In that respect, there's probably more upside. We are probably starting to see demand destruction in some gas, LPG, where the market is clearing, but we have to move higher. But of course, we see there are various initiatives to push more oil into the global market. We had the strategic reserves. We saw that Scott Bessent just said that he got unsanctioned Iranian oil, basically making the Iranian oil at sea, which is probably maybe 50, 100 million barrels available for buyers. So they will not be sanctioned if they buy Iranian oil. That oil used to go to China. It could also give some leeway for the market, but it still doesn't cure the underlying illness, which is that the Strait of Hormuz is closed, that oil installation, energy installations are now being attacked across the Persian Gulf. So I'm concerned that we are moving higher, both in oil, the refined products like diesel, jet fuel, but also for LNG, the liquefied natural gas.
Right. Mr. Rasmussen, you brought up Strait of Hormuz. I have to ask you this. There were reports that Iran is now mulling over the idea of imposing tax and toll on ships to allow them a safe passage through the strait. If you think, that bill is passed indeed through Iran's parliament, what impact are we looking at then on the global supplies of oil and crude?
First of all, I think we have seen a few ships going through, a few vessels, but they go very close to the, as far as I understand, to the Iranian coastline. And there are some concerns that does this actually reflect that the rest of the strait is mined. We don't know, very few people know if it is mined or not. It's about taxing passage. It's of course something that I think they have introduced to put more pressure on the system. And I could imagine that they would tax Western companies more than sort of friendly countries. But it's, of course, it's a small opening that we may see more oil passing through the strait. But I think as long as we have outright fighting, the number of vessels going through will be very small. And I see no indication today, for example, that there's any uptick in the number of vessels going through.
Right. Mr. Rasmussen, the war will eventually come to an end, maybe within a week, 15 days, or even a month. So right now what it looks like. But I want to ask you, in terms of recovery from the kind of price rise we have seen, the kind of disruptions that have come in oil supplies, what is the recovery period you would estimate according to your expertise?
I think in the LNG, that is where I'm most concerned about the recovery phase. We don't know, but the attack yesterday was certainly a significant concern. We may be talking about months there, and I even mentioned that it could be rest of the year. There's a lot of demand, especially from Europe over the summer, to refill inventories. So there will be this competition between Asia and Europe for the LNG. So that's going to be the last, I think, to sort of normalize. Crude oil, I guess, could probably relatively fast normalize, and then we have the refined products like diesel, jet fuel, gasoline. I'm especially still concerned that it will take a significant amount of time before jet fuel and gas oil are normalized. There we are probably talking also 2 or 3 months after a potential ceasefire and a potential reopening of the strait. And I also think the strait reopening will take some time because you have to make sure that it is secure. You have to make sure there's no mines, and there will simply be a bottleneck in the whole system that you have to get tankers in and out of the strait. So these things takes time, but eventually, of course, they will settle. But we are talking months here after end of the war, and hopefully you're right that the war will end in a few weeks.
Right. Mr. Rasmussen, we hope the same, that we do see an early end to this conflict. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on Republic and sharing your crucial inputs on these developments. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now, viewers, let's also show you the spike, in fact, that is coming into Brent crude price ever since the war began. It started with about $73 per barrel. This was on February 28th when Israel and the US launched the preemptive strikes against Iran. And we have seen an upward trajectory ever since, and now clocking at about $115 per barrel as we are on day 28 of the war in West Asia. Now, viewers, new developments are coming to light. They have emerged in the NIA probe regarding the foreign mercenaries present in India. Now, drone warfare training, cross-border networks, and even sleeper cell links have come to light. And now sources say it was a Russian intelligence input that helped track and then arrest an American national and 6 Ukrainians. Now, all accused of training armed groups are back in Myanmar and also with possible spillover into India's northeast. Now, on these allegations, Ukraine has also hit back, saying that these are politically motivated allegations against its nationals. We'll get you all the details in this report. Take a look. 7 foreign nationals, 6 Ukrainians and 1 American, Matthew Van Dyke, now in NIA custody till March 27th. Investigation now becoming murkier regarding mercenaries' role in destabilization India plot. Sources reveal it was a Russian intelligence input that triggered the crackdown. The input flagged a foreign network training anti-government armed groups in Myanmar. The input pointed to drone warfare training including assembly, operation and even jamming techniques, equipment routed through India, raising serious national security concerns.
A key input from Russian intelligence helped in the arrest of 7 foreign nationals. 7 foreign nationals including 6 Ukrainians and 1 US citizen. The Russian intelligence flagged off that a group of foreign nationals were giving military training to the armed group, which are usually ethnic armed group, which are usually found in the border of India and Myanmar. Apart from this, they were also giving drone warfare training from assembly to operations to also jamming them, so the whole entire package.
And now the spotlight is back on Manipur, a region that has seen years of ethnic violence, hundreds dead, thousands displaced. The probe has now expanded. NIA is looking at sleeper cells in border areas and the role of local contacts in Manipur and Mizoram. Sources say the foreign mercenaries were in touch with local networks and had even traveled to Andhra Pradesh.
The foreign mercenaries who went to Myanmar via Northeast didn't just travel.
Constitute its leadership and launch large-scale attacks against the homeland. Strict U.S. border enforcement measures and increased deportations of individuals with suspected links to Islamist terrorists have reduced access to the homeland and removed some potential sources of future terror attacks. Since January, U.S. officials have only had a handful of encounters at our borders with individuals associated with terrorist groups. This is a positive trend. However, our interagency coordinated efforts to identify, locate, and remove known or suspected terrorists who are already in the U.S. continues with vigilance. In 2025, there were at least 3 Islamist terrorist attacks in the U.S. Law enforcement disrupted at least 15 U.S.-based Islamist terrorist plotters. Roughly half of last year's disrupted plotters had some online contact with Islamist terrorists inspired by Islamist foreign terrorist organizations abroad. Al-Qaeda and ISIS pose the biggest threat to U.S. interests overseas in parts of Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia, where these groups operate. In the Middle East, AQAP in Yemen, ISIS-K in South Asia, and ISIS in Syria are among the most likely groups conducting external plotting. ISIS in Syria specifically is likely seeking to rebuild its ranks, expand support networks, and solicit funds by re-engaging with and recruiting from the likely hundreds of ISIS detainees and thousands of ISIS-linked women and children who escaped or were released from prisons and displaced persons camps. Meanwhile, state actors present a risk broader in scope by seeking new capabilities in kinetic and cyber warfare. The U.S. secure nuclear deterrent continues to ensure safety in the homeland against strategic threats. However, the IC assesses that Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and Pakistan have been researching and developing an array of novel, advanced, or traditional missile delivery systems with nuclear and conventional payloads that put our homeland within range. The IC assesses that threats to the homeland will expand collectively to more than 16,000 missiles by 2035, from the current assessed figure of more than 3,000 missiles. The IC assesses that China and Russia are developing advanced delivery systems meant to be capable of penetrating or bypassing U.S. missile defenses. North Korea's ICBMs can already reach U.S. soil. The IC assesses that it is committed to expanding its nuclear arsenal. Pakistan's long-range ballistic missile development potentially could include ICBMs with a range capable of striking the homeland. The IC assesses that Iran has previously demonstrated space launch and other technology it could use to begin to develop a militarily viable ICBM before 2035, should Tehran attempt to pursue the capability. However, these assessments will be observed and updated as the full impact of Operation Epic Fury's devastating strikes on Iran's missile production facilities stockpiles, and launch capabilities is determined. Shifting to the cyber domain, the IC assesses that China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and non-state ransomware groups will continue to seek to compromise U.S. government and private sector networks, as well as critical infrastructure, to collect intelligence and create options for future disruption and for financial gain. The IC assesses China and Russia present the most persistent and active threats and are continuing R&D efforts. North Korea's cyber program is sophisticated and agile. In 2025 alone, North Korea's cryptocurrency heist probably stole $2 billion, which is helping to fund the regime, including further development of its strategic weapons program. Financially or ideologically motivated non-state actors are becoming more bold, with ransomware groups shifting to faster, high-volume attacks that are harder to identify and mitigate. Innovation in the field of artificial intelligence will likely accelerate the threats in the cyber domain. They will increasingly shape cyber operations, with both cyber operators and defenders using these tools to improve their speed and effectiveness. For example, in August of 2025, cyber actors used an AI tool to conduct data extortion against international government, healthcare, and public health emergency service sectors and religious institutions. Shifting to the Arctic, the IC assesses that Russia, and to a lesser extent China, aim to strengthen their presence in the region through increased maritime trade, natural resource extraction, and military activity. Russia, which has the longest coastline in the Arctic, has long sought recognition of its quote-unquote polar great power status and is deploying more military forces and building new permanent infrastructure. China, though not an Arctic country, is engaged in more limited efforts in the region to advance its strategic and economic interests. On the technology front, artificial intelligence capabilities are rapidly advancing and changing the threat landscape. As this is a defining technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem-solving, creativity, and autonomy, it'll be critical to ensure that humans remain in control of how AI is used and of the machines that may threaten to autonomously violate the interests of the American people across all domains. The IC assesses that China is the most capable competitor in this field and aims to displace the U.S. as the global AI leader by 2030. AI adoption at scale across the spectrum of usage poses serious risks. AI has the potential to aid in weapons and systems design and has been used in recent conflicts to influence targeting and streamline decision-making, underscoring the risk and likely threats that could manifest on the battlefield. Early developers in quantum computers will give countries an extraordinary technological advantage over others to quickly process national security information and break current encryption methodology used to protect sensitive finance, healthcare, and government information. The global security landscape is volatile and complex, with armed conflict growing more common and posing potential threats against U.S. interests. The space domain is becoming increasingly contested, with China and Russia developing counter-space capabilities to challenge U.S. space efforts. The threat of nuclear proliferation and advancing chemical and biological warfare capabilities continues to grow. I'll turn now to the Western Hemisphere, where flagging economies, high crime rates, pervasive organized crime, migration flows, corruption, and narcotics trafficking present a broad spectrum of risks to U.S. interests, and where strategic competitors seek to gain greater influence in the region. The IC assesses that Latin America and the Caribbean almost certainly will see hotspots of volatility in the coming year, with the potential to undermine or distract from some countries from improving economies and living conditions and tackling illicit drug flows and cartels. The U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement review in 2026 will likely increase uncertainty in many Latin American countries, especially those that rely on Mexico as an export destination for intermediate goods for manufacture and onward export to the U.S. China, Russia, and Iran are seeking to sustain economic, political, and military engagement with Latin America. The IC assesses that China's demand for raw materials is likely to drive continued economic outreach, while Russia likely wants to expand its current security and diplomatic ties with Cuba and Nicaragua. The IC assesses that China aims to elevate its own political, economic, military, and technological power to increase its own regional positioning, global influence, and to fend off threats to their interest. While there are challenging areas where interests diverge, President Trump's diplomatic engagements with President Xi have enabled progress on areas where mutual interests align. The IC assesses that China continues to rapidly modernize its military forces across all domains in pursuit of its goal to achieve world-class status by mid-century. This includes building a force with the aim of being capable of deterring U.S. and allied forces in the region and to achieve their stated objective of having the capability to seize Taiwan by force if necessary. However, the IC assesses that China likely prefers to set the conditions
Anil Ambani being questioned by the CBI for 7 straight hours, 7-hour grilling by the CBI. Anil Ambani in the bank fraud case. Live visuals coming in first on Republic TV as we closely track this mega scam, this bank fraud case. Anil Ambani questioned for 7 hours. He's likely to be summoned tomorrow as well. What we are picking up to try and connect with a correspondent on ground to understand what has happened. And this is in the bank scam. Anil Ambani now moving out of the CBI office after questioning. He is questioned by the CBI in the 2,909 crore rupee fraud case, SBI bank loan case, fraud case. And he has been questioned by the CBI in this case. Anil Ambani expected to again appear tomorrow for questioning in connection with the scam. All right, Republic TV tried to confront Anil Ambani after his questioning concluded for the day. And Republic TV getting you these shots first on Republic TV. And Republic TV tried to confront Anil Ambani. No answers. Anil Ambani evading the cameras, evading the mic, evading the questions as he moves out of the CBI headquarters in the national capital. He's grilled for 7 hours in the bank fraud case. He reached the agency's headquarters in the morning and was examined by, in fact, today and tomorrow also. Shambhavi joining us on the phone line for more. Shambhavi, tell us more details. The 7-hour questioning for the day by the CBI has ended to Anil Ambani.
Well, exactly. Anil Ambani has been questioned for 7.5 hours by CBI regarding a bank loan fraud of hundreds and crores of rupees. And he is again summoned tomorrow, so he'll be questioned again for hours tomorrow. We tried to confront, we tried to ask questions from Anil Ambani, but he evaded. He was seen evading the camera. He was seen evading a mic. He was seen evading with joined hands. And again, this comes as a huge update that, again, he's been summoned again tomorrow and he will have to come and answer the CBI's questions regarding hundreds and hundreds of crores of taxpayers' money that, and there are several allegations on Anil Ambani, be it diversion of money through fictitious transactions, be it cheating, be it criminal conspiracy. These are the main charges on which the CBI asked questions from Anil Ambani today and will continue to do so even tomorrow.
Right. This questioning has gone for 7 hours, I beg your pardon. And this happened after his son Jay Anmol was also questioned. So what are we expecting right now? What could be the course of action as far as this case is concerned, Shambhavi?
So again, not just his son, but his wife was also summoned, and there are several summons that has been issued against the entire Ambani family by ED as well, not just by CBI, but ED, and is being probed extensively on multiple matters by ED and CBI, both his son Anil Ambani and his wife Tina Ambani. They've evaded summons a lot of times as well when summoned by ED, but he was not able to protect himself from the summon today, and he had to appear, he had to answer questions. And as I mentioned, there are several allegations that CBI is accusing Anil Ambani and his associates of. One is cheating, the other is criminal conspiracy, and third is diversion of loan money through fictitious transactions. These are the three main charges that CBI is accusing Anil Ambani of.
You mentioned about the ED case as well. What we understand is that he has been summoned in connection with the money laundering probe under the PMLA, but he has not appeared before the ED yet.
Yes, he's been skipping summons, although he did appear before ED once. But then again, there is a rule that you can skip summons by ED 3 times before it's actually taking a legal course. So he appeared again and then he missed 2 other times. His wife was also summoned, Tina Ambani, but she also has missed twice the summons, although his son was questioned by CBI. So these are several matters on which the entire Anil Ambani family is being interrogated at the point. Republic tried to ask questions, Republic tried to interrogate and ask questions to Anil Ambani, but he was seen evading the camera with joined hands.
Yeah, we'll just play that out in a bit. In a few seconds from now, we'll play out that sequence when Republic TV questioned Anil Ambani. You can see the moment he exited from the headquarters, he folds his hand, but he refuses to speak. He keeps mum on the questions that have been put forth, have been put across to him with regards to this questioning. He's been questioned for 7 long hours. And as Shambhavi is pointing out, that he will be questioned tomorrow as well. Now, the CBI probe centers on the alleged diversion and misuse of loan funds extended by the CBI and a consortium of banks to Reliance Communications. Viewers, let's take a listen to this sequence that we've just recorded.
सर आप पर जो एलिगेशन है सर आप पर जो एलिगेशन है सर आप पर एलिगेशन है सर आप पर जो एलिगेशन है सर कुछ कहना है आपको सर आप पर एलिगेशन है बैंक छोड़ के सर आप पर जो एलिगेशन है सर आप पर एलिगेशन है सर आप पर जो एलिगेशन है सर कुछ कहना है आपको सर आप पर एलिगेशन है बैंक छोड़ के
Just tell us about this confrontation, Shambhavi, as we see that he had no answers as far as this questioning is concerned. If you could just tell us any information that you picked up on the grounds he was questioned on.
See, the main grounds that he was questioned on was cheating, criminal conspiracy, and transfer of loan funds, diversion of loan funds through fictitious transactions. And also, the agency has conducted searches at his residence before, at his office before, and has secured key documents from there. So those could also possibly be the grounds on which he would have been questioned. Apart from that, and this is in regards to hundreds and crores of money, let me tell our viewers, hundreds and crores of money that have been diverted through fictitious transactions, through shell companies and through other routes which are illegal, where he and his family and his associates have been allegedly involved and is being probed by not just CBI but by ED as well. Several summons has been issued since 2025. This is now this is not fresh. This has been going on since 2025, and it seems like today Anil Ambani, although evaded our questions, he could not evade CBI's question. He was probed. He was questioned for 7.5 long hours, and will have to come back tomorrow again to be questioned.
All right. Thank you so much, Shambhavi, for joining us with details coming in on that story that Republic TV is closely following. In the meantime, viewers, we have breaking news coming. It's a big technical snag that has been reported as far as Air India flight is concerned. And this is Air India B777, Boeing 777-300 suffering a technical snag. And just trying to get you all more details on that story. This is a flight that was diverted to Medina. It has suffered a technical snag, and this is we'll try and understand what really had happened. Okay, so the flight is still airborne, 19th of March, this is today's incident. Air India B77300 operating flight AI 116 sector New York to Bombay. This is a flight New York to Bombay, New York to Mumbai. The aircraft diverted to Medina owing to AFT cargo fire warning. The fire bottle also discharged. And further details are awaited in this matter. So this is a big technical snag. There was a fire warning that was put out there on the flight. The flight is still airborne. And my colleague Harsha joins us on the broadcast for more. Harsha, there was a fire warning, AFT fire warning. What does it mean and how big of a snag is this?
Yes, you rightly pointed out this is a very serious and very dangerous issue where a cargo was seen. There was a fire alert in the cargo of the Air India AI 116 Boeing 777-300, which has been diverted to Medina. The more worrisome issue is it has been diverted in the war situation when the so many airstreams have been asked by the airlines not to pass through, and it was clearly stated that this is a very serious and very dangerous situation. The DGCA prelim report has been shared immediately, but Rakshita, this is a very serious situation because the fire extinguisher bottle was discharged from the cargo. It was following a safety procedure by the pilot in command, because at that particular time it was very important that any untoward incident doesn't happen. Whether it was just an alert from the cargo or whether actually there was some fire erupting from the cargo, that is more to be known from the side of Air India. What has been told to us is that the flight is still airborne. It is still airborne. That means it is still dangerous and it will be landing at the Medina airport, and after that the necessary checks will be done of this particular aircraft of Air India AI 116, which was bound to go to Mumbai from New York, which took off today only from New York. It was supposed to land in Mumbai late in the evening, but it was diverted to Medina. Very dangerous and serious situation. We have approached Air India for a statement on this particular tech snag, because it's a very worrisome tech snag that how can there be a fire or smoke alert in the cargo. That AFT really it has caught a cargo fire, because immediately when there was a fire signal, the pilot sensed that there's something dangerous, and therefore immediately the fire bottle was discharged from the cargo following a safety procedure. Also to give an alert to the ATC in the Medina and the ARP in Delhi as well. Now we have to look into the for the investigation will take place.
Right. Many thanks, Harsha, for joining us with those details on the story. Meanwhile, we'll continue to get you more breaking news, viewers, on this bulletin, but time for a very, very short break. Don't go anywhere.
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा।
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We are all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है मंटू, भेज दे रहे हैं। ठीक है ना, भेज रहा मंटू। अरे अनुसरण हो गया। तुम तो कमाल किया तो नीचे। अब तुम फिर गाड़ी ले पूर्ण वाला, चलो वो तेरा गाड़ी मार रहा ठीक है ना, हम बात करेंगे क्या हुआ? ठीक है ना भैया बोलेंगे आप करिए गाड़ी जा ही रहा है।
Breaking news coming in right now. Now, amid the war, Russian journalist Steve Sweeney and his camera person have been injured in southern Lebanon after a strike hit near them while they were reporting. Both are conscious and they're receiving treatment for the shrapnel wounds. But we'll just play out that video. Russian journalists injured. They've been wounded in the strikes in Lebanon as they were reporting on the war. And we've seen how Israel has been conducting incessant strikes in Lebanon. Here's the video. Care to see?
Along the border, including the Al-Marj outpost opposite Merkaba, and carried out drone strikes on the Al-Raheb site near Aitar al-Shab. Further rocket attacks were reported against Nahariya and a fucking hell.
It's a dramatic footage and it could have been really fatal. He was just few meters away, as we can see. He was just few meters away from that strike point, that target that has been hit in southern Lebanon, that continues to be pounded by Israel via its airstrikes. You can just understand what a moment of terror it would have been for the reporter, but he bravely has been reporting from the war zone, and the shrapnels, of course, flying across has hit him and the camera person. All right, viewers, we have some more updates coming in. Meanwhile, we will be stepping into a very short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with our special coverage on the war.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद ये तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा,
In the global employability rankings by Times Higher Education UK, only the following 6 institutions from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur and Amity University.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है? आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट, स्वाद बढ़ाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है? स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और फरसान, अरे चमकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरी डे।
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाई जीरा से MDH का जलजीरा जीरा से।
जीरा से असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा।
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है मंडू भेज रहे हैं ठीक है ना भेज रहे मंडू अरे अनुसरी होगा तुमचा कुणाला गेला तुमचे अजून गाडीला पूर्ण होला त्याला कुठे का गाडी मागवा
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा हार्डकोर मसाला।
यानी इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं।
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा। रुंगटा स्टील TMT से बना।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ और
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट। ड्राई फ्रूट और दही बड़े। चमकी चाट से स्वाद बढ़े।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी
हर पल बनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है मंडू भेज रहे हैं ठीक है ना भेज रहे मंडू अरे अनुसरी होगा तुमचा कुणाला गेला तुमचे अजून गाडीला पूर्ण होला त्याला कुठे का गाडी मागवा
American mercenary, a CIA agent, Ukraine versus Russia fight breaks out. American deep state at work in India, debating tonight at 8 p.m.
Our pure Shahi Paneer Masala. Delicious, healthy, every day.
In the global employability rankings by Times Higher Education UK, only the following 6 institutions from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur and Amity University.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी बहुत शाबाश। और
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट। अब बताओ स्वाद आया? आया।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
First we saw the people dying, the killings, and that's continuing, destruction of infrastructure, and now the economic impact. The economic impact will affect everybody across the world. You know, the price of LNG, cooking gas has already gone up. So it is a very serious problem. We're all going to suffer. So we all have to work to make sure it ends soon. And I hope that, led by our Prime Minister, etc., we will work on that.
ठीक है मंटू भेज रहा है। ठीक है ना भेज रहा मंटू। अरे आलू से नहीं होगा। तुम तो कमाल किया तो नीचे। अब उनसे गाड़ी में पूर्ण वाला, चलो वो टका गाड़ी में चला। दे दो चला हो 10 भाई ठीक है ना हम बात करेंगे कहीं हम क्या हुआ ठीक है ना भैया बोलेंगे आप गाड़ी जा ही रहा है कौन सा गाड़ी नहीं जा रहा है गाड़ी तो चारों निकला हुआ है आप बता रहे लोग ये FFCCS मतलब फाउंड्री फॉर कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी वहाँ लिखा हुआ है भैया।
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Republic TV. I'm Gesu Bharadwaj, also being joined by my colleague Rakshita Mishra on the broadcast. And we're going to be talking about what's happening in West Asia as tensions continue to escalate, and also the fact that 22 Indian vessels continue to remain stuck in the Strait of Hormuz.
Right, Gesu, the impact of this war is immense, and it only continues to widen. Republic TV will be getting you each and every angle. But first, a quick check of the headlines.
The world, the Middle East, our ungrateful allies in Europe, even segments of our own press should be saying one thing to President Trump. Thank you.
U.S. Defense Secretary addresses the media as war against Iran rages on in its third week. He terms the U.S. European allies as ungrateful.
Tehran releases new video showcasing the launch of the 64th wave of the Operation True Promise 4 against Israel.
Ukraine issues statement on NIA arrest of foreign mercenaries, denies charges, calls it politically motivated.
According to sources, a Russian intelligence input played a key role in the arrest of a US mercenary Van Dyke and 6 Ukrainian citizens by the NIA.
US intel report claims Pakistan is developing missiles with nuclear payload and that Pakistan advanced missiles threaten the United States.
The tit-for-tat attacks on gas facilities lead to surge in oil prices. Brent crude over $112 per barrel.
Viewers, we start with big breaking news coming in. It's a big technical snag that has been reported on an Air India flight. This is the B777-300 aircraft, VTAER, operating flight AI 116 from New York to Mumbai. The aircraft diverted to Medina owing to the AFT cargo fire warning. There wasn't a warning, the alarm that went on. And then the fire bottle has also been discharged. It's a big technical snag. It's a safety scare rather. We're trying to get more details as we connect to our correspondent. But this is an international flight we are talking about of Air India. And this could have been very, very dangerous. Air India flight. This is New York to Mumbai. And it has been diverted to Medina. Okay, Harsha joining us live on the broadcast. For more, Harsha, tell us more details about this flight. We understand that this is an airborne flight. How long, or has it already landed? What has been gathered till now?
So, Rakshita, while I'm talking to you right now, the flight has now, which was diverted to Medina, has landed at Medina Airport just few minutes back. There's an update we have got through Flight Radar and after speaking to Air India sources as well. And this was a very huge technical issue which can't be ignored at all because a very dangerous situation because it was airborne. The flight was airborne. It was AI-116. It was JFK to Mumbai bound. It was supposed to land in Mumbai airport at around 9:30 to 10 p.m. this late evening. But before that only, there was a technical snag. There was a smoke alert warning from the AFT, from the cargo of the airline. And immediately the pilot in command sensed that it is something dangerous and the plane could not be taken to Mumbai, which was its original destination. And immediately the ATC informed, the pilot in command informed the ATC, and the ATC only looked that there is an airspace issue also which is going right now, and Air India has also already been told that there's an airspace which is because of the war situation. Therefore, it's a very risky situation, and therefore it has immediately been diverted to Medina, not to say because after sensing that any untoward incident could have taken place. What pilot in command did was very intellect and smart on his side. As soon as he sensed the cargo smoke warning, fire warning from the cargo of the aircraft, immediately fire bottles were discharged by him as a safety measure, as a precautionary measure to ensure that passengers are safe. The fire bottles are discharged, keeping in mind that the fire extinguisher agents are discharged at that time. These are the halogen gas shot. These are the helium gas shot. For all our viewers, it gives the fire warning alert also and ensures that till the time it reaches its destination, the cargo is equipped enough and can be taken to the diverted location. That was a precautionary measure which was taken by pilot in command immediately, because certainly if the flight was airborne and if the pilot in command that time would have tried making it to reach to Mumbai, at that time any untoward incident could have taken place. There could have been an intense fire which could have erupted from the cargo of the plane. But to avoid that situation, only it was diverted to Medina. The entire prelim report has been shared with the DGCA regulatory body by Air India. But Air India till now has not issued any statement to Republic. We have spoken to the COPCOM, we have spoken to Air India. Our top sources state that this is the confirmed news, and it was shown in the flight radar also that this particular plane was diverted to Medina. It is a dangerous situation because of the war situation as well. There are several airspaces which is right now banned and has been stated heavy risks places heavy risk airspace today only by the DGCA. Precautionary warning was also given to all the airlines to avoid such airspace movement, but in that situation only the diversion which has happened, the diversion which has happened raises lot of safety alarms as in what could have gone wrong in the cargo or whether maintenance was not done by the Air India well. Back to you.
Right, Harsha. In fact, also speak to us about the fact that this is not a one-off incident. In fact, just on the 16th, a few days ago, another Delhi-bound Air India flight met with a similar fate. It had to make an emergency landing in Ireland over technical snags. Now, we already know that 5 years and the refurbishing work happens. Everything that is wrong with any flight operations is readdressed. But why is Air India falling short again and again? And is their apology going to make up for each incident that keeps happening so frequently now? Harsha.
So now what we see is that it has been a pattern by Air India and the regulatory body as well. Now regulatory body is not very much concerned about the seriousness of the incident, which has been reported continuously by Republic TV as well. Continuously we are reporting how this is a technical snag, huge technical snag. In a layman language, they keep on saying that this is the aviation industry. Such incidents keep happening, but one can't overlook that how this a small incident could lead to a very untoward incident, which we have seen in the case of AI 171 Ahmedabad plane crash. At that time, there was a fuel control switch issue, and this time it was a fire alarm issue. The fire alarm issue coming from the cargo is a very dangerous situation. Imagine if a fire alarm continues to give alert and warning to the pilot in command in the cockpit. That means after 10 minutes, if not controlled, if the situation is not controlled and any measures is not taken, then there could be immense fire in the engine of the aircraft as well. And when the engine is on fire, the entire plane could crash. So that's the seriousness of the issue. And Air India, mostly with their Boeing aircraft, what we have seen is that Boeing 787, Boeing 777, Boeing 737, all these aircraft of Boeing, which is told that they're highly skilled aircraft, but back to back the technical snags keep on appearing and occurring in the Boeing aircraft majorly. This is also
Harsha.
the Boeing aircraft. Morning we reported that was also a Boeing aircraft. Back to back, the mechanically skilled aircraft Boeing fails to ensure the passenger safety. That's the voice we are raising here at Republic, which DGCA can't ignore. Back to you.
Right. We're also being joined by President of Federation of Indian Pilots, Captain C.S. Randhawa on the broadcast. Very good evening to you, sir. But this is a great cause of concern. The fact that even the fire bottle was discharged. How would you explain this snag and how serious is this?
You see, any cargo fire which takes place in the front cargo or the aft cargo, now you have certain amount of fire bottles which can be discharged once the warning comes into the cockpit. Now, the fire warning, when it comes to the cargo and it is uncontrolled, then the situation is land as soon as possible. Now, the cargo fire per se cannot cause engine fire. So the fire, once it could be, there could be two types. One is an actual fire which could take place, and the second would be a false warning which will come. Now, sometimes it has been seen, especially in the mango season when the flights are going outbound from India. And once or twice it did happen on the 747 aircraft, and on a couple of occasions the cargo fire warning light came on because of the main concern was mangoes. But in this case now, we do not know what was the cargo which was loaded from New York for Mumbai. Now, it is a serious concern. Now, if the fire warning is actual or not, the pilot does not know in the cockpit. When the warning comes, then he has to take appropriate actions. Now, in this case, he is elected to divert to Medina, which could be the nearest airfield. And I suppose the aircraft is still not landed. Now, as far as the seriousness is concerned, Air India has been constantly having a lot of snags, and it has come to light even by the DGCA, where they had flagged this issue last year, the number of snags which are there on the Air India aircraft. Now, though I'm not saying that the emergency cannot take place on any aircraft, it can take place. But definitely the maintenance of Air India aircraft needs to be more vigilant, and they've got to carry out proper maintenance procedures, which they would be doing. So at the time of release, the aircraft is serviceable. But later on, what happens is that if there is a malfunction in the any component or there is, in this case, this was a fire warning. So it could lead to a very serious situation. Like cargo fire, if uncontrolled, then it can even, lead to a crash because the aircraft will burn off before it lands. So it is
Right,
serious. But I still say that there are two types of fire warnings. One is actual and one could be false.
Right,
So if the aircraft is still in the air, it could be a false warning. And Air India needs to thoroughly investigate, and DGCA will also come into the picture because this is going to be investigated.
Definitely. And borrowing from your point of, thorough investigation that Air India is supposed to do, we also know that Air India uses both carriers, Airbus as well as Boeing. And we've seen these untoward incidents occur in Boeing flights specifically that are with Air India. So is this just a maintenance lag from Air India's end, or is it a larger problem of still continuing procurement from Boeing, which has come under scanner time and again? And what is the way out in case Boeing has to be held accountable for this, sir?
As far as the Boeing 777 is concerned, it's a very safe aircraft and proven all around the world. I would say that this is one of the best machines after 737, NG aircraft. This has been the most successful machine manufactured by Boeing. As I said, that on any aircraft, whether it's an Airbus 350 or a 787 or a 777 aircraft, any aircraft which is flying, like even on the roads, if you see a brand new car can have snags. Similarly, aircraft can have snags. But the problem is that more of Air India flights are having snags and they are coming out with malfunctions. Now, that is a little serious because they need to thoroughly investigate. Now, it has to be seen whether the aircraft are going on the MEL and what is the MEL release. And if the snags were persistent, that means they have to have a serious look at those snags which are repetitive in nature. So this one introspection Air India needs to carry out, because the number of snags which are occurring and the failures which are occurring on the Air India aircraft are increasing day by day. So they need to keep a check on this. Definitely it is not a Boeing problem, but I feel it is Air India needs to be more vigilant in their maintenance procedures and checks.
Right, many thanks, Captain Randhawa, for joining us with your reading of the situation. Right now, viewers, we shift our focus now to the war zone, showing you those powerful images that actually make you understand the impact of this war, the scale of the war. And war reporting, of course, is something that you can really see the dangers, the risks that come in with it. RT correspondent Steve Sweeney, along with his camera person, were injured after a strike in southern Lebanon. We're going to play out that visuals, what really followed, how a shrapnel wounded the group.
Along the border, including the Al-Marj outpost opposite Merkaba, and carried out drone strikes on the Al-Raheb site near Aitar al-Shab. Further rocket attacks were reported against Nahariya and admitted. Along the border, including the Al-Marj outpost opposite Merkaba, and carried out drone strikes on the Al-Raheb site near Aitar al-Shab. Further rocket attacks were reported against Nahariya and admitted. along the border, including the Al-Marj outpost opposite Merkaba, and carried out drone strikes on the Al-Raheb site near Aitar al-Shab. Further rocket attacks were reported against Nahariya and admitted.
Viewers, since the first day of this war, Republic has been asking a pertinent question. Who is this war for? What is it going to achieve? Now, in fact, today, Republic continues to ask the pertinent question, and that's because another gas field in Iran has been struck. The world's largest gas field